Welcome back, AEIS artists. Today we are going to do a water resist on our continuous line project. So this was my continuous line. I tried to create a theme. So I tried to do a fish theme. And so this is my finished product so far. I tried to make sure I repeated my colors so that I had again, a pleasing eye effect of the colors repeating. So again, I tried to make sure I repeated the colors and I didn't use a ton of color. Okay, so this is my piece. I just used crayons and a Sharpie. So now I'm going to add the watercolor. So I'm going to tilt my camera down so you can see my workstation. And so here is my watercolors. Okay, so we all have a set of watercolors. Unless you brought your own, then you'll be using your own watercolors. I have a container of water and then a brush. Okay, so my watercolors are dry. To activate dry watercolors, you need to massage the water into them. So I'm going to take some water from my brush, get on my brush, and I'm going to probably go with the blue background because I'm thinking ocean, and I'm putting it right onto the blue. I'm massaging the water onto the pigment, otherwise we just have colored water. So I'm trying to really activate that color. And so I'm massaging it. I'm not smashing down my brush, but I'm kind of going in a nice circle. So your brush should always have a brush form. Okay, I have a paper towel close by. All right, so my paint is activated. And you know it's activated when it feels a little thicker than if you just stuck water on top and was just making colored water. So I'm gonna use a little bit more water because I have a big area to do. So now what I'm gonna do is, and you can use more than one color, but I'm now gonna spread my blue. And once I put my color down, I'm actually just dragging it with water. So I'm just using the water. So I'm dipping my brush in just water, and I'm gonna smooth my paint out of the way because I'm really just using the water. So I'm getting my brush, I'm moving the paint that I put down with water. And you know what, I think I might pass out the bigger brushes. I have bigger black brushes, especially if you're just using one color. Now you don't have to just use one color. In fact, I think I might change it up a little bit. But what I wanted to show you is that you can see that on top of crayons or even oil pastels, the watercolor will just sit on top. So it's called a resist, watercolor resist. So I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. And again, I'm gonna pass out bigger brushes because otherwise, little brushes are easy to control, but they might take a little while to paint. So you want to get paint everywhere. So, and again, this kind of makes it look like it's underwater, at least for my piece, because again, I'm doing an ocean scene. So I think I'm going to change colors. I think I'm going to add maybe a different green. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush. How do you know your brush is clean when you are changing it? Is you just lay it down. You're not going to turn your brush like this because it ruins the paintbrush, the bristles. Now, if you still have a little bit of color on there, you're gonna put it back into the water and you're just tapping it down onto the bottom and then wiping it onto your paper towel. So I'm gonna activate another color. I think I'm gonna go with green. And I'm activating the green. Again, I should have used a bigger brush, but I didn't. And I'm just gonna put the green down. Again, I'm using more water to really get a nice light overlapping color. So now I'm also going wet and wet. So I'm mixing my blue water paint that was still a little bit wet with the green. And again, what we're doing is a watercolor resist because we're working on top of a waxy surface with the watercolor, so it repels, the wax repels water. But it'll sit on top, so you can see that on my fish, you can see little lines of where the watercolor is. Now, if for some reason you don't like that, all you have to do when watercolor is still wet is wipe it off, especially if you use crayon. And it comes right off the fish. So watercolor can be erased if it's wet and you have a dry paper towel. All right, so today again, what we're going to do is you're going to finish adding the color with crayons or oil pastels. Now, if you use colored pencils, that's fine. It's just, you're just not gonna get a watercolor resist. And I wanna get color everywhere. Again, I'm gonna pass out the black brushes because they're bigger. And if you get watercolor on the table, it's okay, we'll wash it off. So, I am just about done. And you've already put your name and teacher's name and where you sit on the back. So when I put it on the drying rack, I should be good. All right, I'm gonna put it back over my fish because I kind of liked the way it looked underneath the water. And if it's too much, you can blot some of that off. So if it's too much underwater looking for you, you certainly can blot it off. Kind of like the way that looks. All right. So this is my finished continuous line underwater scene with Watercolor Resist. So enjoy this first technique that we're doing with our watercolors, and I can't wait to see the results. Happy creating, AEIS artists.